From K2 News, this is Your Voice, Your Vote with Steve Dunn.
Hi, everybody. Great to have you with us on this Sunday, August 11th. One of the most competitive U.S. House races in this November's election is taking place in Southwest Washington. It's Congressional District 3. Democrat Congresswoman Marie Gluesenkamp Perez is fighting to keep her seat. Her Republican opponent is Joe Kent. We just learned from Tuesday's primary in Washington that these two candidates will be competing against each other again. It will most likely be a rematch to remember. Last time, Gluesenkamp Perez won by less than 3,000 votes. With control of the House at stake, competitive congressional races like this one are getting a lot of national attention. We have interviews with both candidates in Washington's CD3, beginning with the incumbent. Joining me now is Congresswoman Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, and congratulations on advancing to the November election, first of all.
Thank you.
We're talking with you one day after the primary. You'll be running against Republican Joe Kent in the November election, as you did before. And I know we talked to you in July. You pretty much predicted this would be the outcome. Very close race last time. What's your reaction to round two with Joe Kent?
Yeah, well, I was pleasantly surprised to see the movement. In the last cycle, I came through at 31%. We're at 46% now. So that's the third time I've beaten Joe in an election, and I'm looking forward to doing it again in November.
Well, as of Tuesday night, you had almost 47% of the primary vote. You won 5 out of the 7 counties in your district. What do these numbers indicate to you about the November election?
Well, it's a huge encouragement to see that the work I've done to represent our independent perspective and voice of Southwest Washington and D.C. is being recognized. The work we're doing to communicate our values and how I'm reflecting it, it's been effective. And I'm so proud of the endorsements we've gotten from WACOPS or the State Farm Bureau, just to build the coalition, particularly in this divisive political climate. It's really rewarding.
Does it concern you at all that when it comes to Joe Kent that he's endorsed by Donald Trump and Trump will be on the ballot this time? Does that worry you at all?
He had it last time, and you know, I don't think that people are judging Joe based on the list of endorsements, but on the weird things he's continuing to say online. This is still the same guy that's talking about a national ban on abortion and banning all immigration for 20 years to reestablish a white majority. You don't accidentally say those kinds of things, and they're so far out of line with our values. I'm confident that if we continue to communicate and be authentic and just be myself, we can win this.
The Cook Political Report ranks your district as a Democrat toss-up. What's your message to the unaffiliated voters who haven't really decided where they're going yet?
Yeah, well, in Washington State, we don't register by party. We're all independents. And so whether you are, you know, identifying as a conservative or a progressive or an independent, and you feel like none of this fits you, I'm working to earn your voice and vote and reflect our unique perspective. And so this is not about, you know, partisan football for me. This is who's going to fight for our community.
Last time you were on this program, you made some national news by saying that you believed that President Biden would lose to former President Trump in November. A lot has happened since then. We now have Vice President Kamala Harris, who's moved into that spot. You voted in July on a resolution to condemn President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris on their handling of the southern border crisis. Will you be endorsing her?
Well, like most people in my community, I am really unhappy with the way that immigration policy is not being enforced and the lack of operational security at the southern border. I hear all the time from families who are fighting to get a spot for their loved ones in rehab for an addiction, or who are suffering, or who have lost members. And so, you know, it's my job to reflect that. And so I am not shy about doing that. I'm not apologetic about reflecting our values. And, you know, I didn't endorse Biden in my last race. I don't think that anybody is wanting more, you know, partisanship from their electeds, and they're not going to base their vote off of what I do at a, you know, how I'm voting at a presidential level. And so I'm staying focused on my race.
So you're not going to endorse her?
I don't have plans.
Okay. And will you still vote for her if you don't endorse her? That's the question.
Well, it looks like this is going to be a top 2 race. you know, and I know what my values are. This is my vote, and a lot of people I respect are going to vote all different ways, but I know who I'm not voting for.
We'll move on from that. You didn't think Biden could beat Trump. Do you think Harris can beat him?
I don't know. I know there's a lot of enthusiasm, but I also know that a lot of people feel pretty much left behind and ignored when we look at national level politics. And, you know, I am staying focused on fighting for our timber communities, for our law enforcement, for small businesses, working families. And, you know, when we allow our priorities to be kind of superseded by these like hot culture war things, like we lose. You know, nobody in DC cares if the Chehalis River Valley floods, you know. It's my job to make that my priority. It's my job to be responsive to the wildfires we're seeing here. It's my job to be responsive to, you know, schools going down to a 4-day school week in Wahkiakum County. Those are the things that don't get national attention. And I'm working to change that fulcrum and talk about the things that really matter to us locally.
A lot of concerns your constituents have, no question about it. Who's to blame for the crisis taking place at the border, do you think?
Well, I mean, I've been very clear that the president should have taken more action. And it's interesting now to see that after some of the pressure I and some of my colleagues placed, and he did start to take some action, and we have seen border crossings decrease. But it's not enough, and I don't think that it's enough. It's not crazy to say that we should have operational control of the southern border. You know, I've voted to fund our border security workforce at the highest level and have the highest workforce we've ever had, because that's what we need. You know, we've got to defund the cartels who are benefiting from trafficking fentanyl.
So what do you support when it comes to border security then?
Yeah, I mean, we need to know who's coming in and what's coming in. That's not that much to ask.
Economy, obviously a big concern for many, as well as folks in your district. What are you doing or proposing to help people in your district not only survive, but thrive as well?
Yeah, that's right. When I'm at the doors, when I'm at the grocery store or daycare drop-off, the economic issues are like always at the front of normal people's minds. Like, people are putting their grocery bills on credit cards. And I've seen it in our auto shop. You know, a headlight assembly, I used to be able to do just one light bulb for $3. Now I have to do the whole assembly for like $700, and it's stealing wealth from the middle class for no real benefit. And so that's one of the reasons that I have been fighting so hard for right to repair legislation. You know, it's everything together. You know, it's not just about numbers, but it's about policy. I was talking with a friend that works at a daycare, and she was telling me she's not legally allowed to peel a banana or an orange. She can open a bag of chips, but she can't peel a banana because that's food prep. And I spent 3 months going around talking to regulators, and they were like, no, she doesn't understand the rules, or her boss is lying to her. Yeah, it turns out they would need 6 more sinks. And so when you look at the national health impacts, when you look about the cost to operate a daycare, when you look at my daycare costs just went up substantially. And it's all these things that, you know, maybe they didn't intend to, but legislators need to have, like, we need working people at the table. We need people who are changing diapers, who are peeling bananas, who are turning wrenches at the table to get good legislation that decreases the cost of doing business, you know, the decreasing the cost of building a starter home. All of these things, like, people's funds are fungible, right? Cash is fungible. What it comes down to is not just party favors for specific things, but how are we actually going to have and move wealth in the middle class? Homeownership, durable goods, cars that we can fix. Those are the levers that I'm looking at.
In your campaign ads, you say Marie Perez. Have you dropped Gluesenkamp?
You know, you only get 30 seconds, and
So you want every second you can get.
so I'm very proud of being in Gluesenkamp and having married into that and clan, and but you know, it's also important for people to be able to recognize my name without taking out their Scrabble board.
You got a tough battle ahead. There's no question about it in the months to come to November. Are you prepared for that? Are you geared up for that?
Absolutely. It's been an absolute honor. It is fun to fight for normal people. It is fun to go out and talk with our first responders, people that feel like they haven't gotten the respect they deserve and the oxygen and attention. And it's really fun to do this work. DC is, you know, not fun, right? It is so much prettier here. I'm so proud of being here. I spend as much time as I can in Southwest Washington, but I have been really encouraged by the coalitions we've built and the work we've been able to do.
Representative Marie Gluesenkamp Perez running for her second term in Southwest Washington's 3rd Congressional District. Thanks for your time. Thanks for coming in today. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
After a busy night last night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.